What up, everybody? We are live for, I believe, Late Night Live number 18, if I've been counting correctly. I think that's the right count, but I don't actually know for certain. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. So I was searching for a fountain pen to use today to do my video with, and I came across a Pentel pen. Marilyn's in research mode. YouTube is telling me that it is not receiving enough information, so I'm hoping that goes away soon. What's going on, everybody? Aravind, Marilyn, LM, Otis Winnie, nice to see you guys. I'm in kind of a super relaxed, not a big day. I've had a big few days, actually. Super fun, long days in Uncle Mike zone. Haven't written, honestly, a whole lot since last Tuesday, just because I've been busy, which is why, I'm sorry, I haven't done the breakdown or the Sig Slingin' Sunday challenge yet. I figure maybe I'll do that live tonight. Perhaps. We'll feel it out. Oh, my tea's still a little too hot. I feel like I'm just gonna write tonight. No real agenda. Last week we were pretty focused on getting that signature. I did that. I didn't count, but I should have counted how many times I wrote that signature last week. Over the course of the Late Night Live. I will not be doing that today. Oh, you like the music today? Right on. Same playlist as the past couple weeks, I think. Super chill. They're really big playlists, though, so I'm assuming we're hearing different songs kind of every once in a while. But I feel like I just want to sit down and drink some tea and relax and write today. Once I get warmed up, I will probably, just because it's fun, dive into the Sig Slingin' Sunday signature. But until then, I think I'm just gonna do a little practice. I'm still in, sort of tore down all of the letters. I'm still working on just the bare, the basics of the capital stem. Nice to see some people on the Discord this week. People are doing some pages of practice on the stems. It's cool to see. Ooh. These hairlines are very, very thick. This nib is a little on the old side. What up, Hody? The Pentel EF pen. I have never used one. There we go. That's the starting arc I want. Come on, YouTube, take away that warning. It's still telling me that it's not receiving enough information. The brush pen. Thank you very much, Odie. It's been a fun time. I got my hair cut the other day. I guess you guys haven't seen me since I got a trim. Got rid of... I had let it grow for a number of months. When I should be cutting it more often. Looking suave. Alright, I'll take Oh, what was that? Oh, something under my paper. Get out of here. Yeah, like I said, no real agenda today. I'm just chilling, I think. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you found a pen that does it good. It's always helpful when the pens work nicely. This week's signature's got a lot of the same swells in it as last week's, I guess. Well, that's good. The G is a great nib, though, so you're gonna have to. You should learn to tame that one day, because then from the Nico, then you're gonna have to tame like a Leonard Principle or a Hunt 101 or something like that. That's better. My heaters are clicking in here. I'm using my baseboard heaters for the first time since moving into this apartment. And it's all new sounds to me. Share a little higher. Well, if you've been using your Hunt 101 for a year, there's a good chance it's ready to be replaced. Possibly. Depending on the ink, but a year's a long time for a nib to be used. They were never designed for that kind of longevity. Oh, you're not that late. We're just getting started, and like I said, I mean, you just got here, so you wouldn't have heard it. I don't really have much of a serious agenda today. There's no seriousness to tonight's live. I'm just in a sort of a chill mood, so I'm just gonna have a writing session. We'll see how things go. Do some warm up, and then I'll work on. Maybe I'll do, I guess, a live breakdown of the Sig Sling and Sunday signature since I haven't recorded a breakdown of it yet. Sorry. I was gonna record it yesterday, but my niece and nephew came over here for a sleepover. After hanging out with them for the day, we decided they would come here and have a sleepover at my place. So I couldn't very well record a video with them hanging out with me. That's not very fun. So we had movie night with popcorn and whatnot instead. And it was Thanksgiving weekend after all. For you guys here. Refocus. There we go. They are a good time. Keep you on your toes. Are you from Canada? Yes, I am. I'm originally from just north of Edmonton, Alberta. Then I lived in Vancouver, where I am now, for a couple years back in 2004. And then moved to Los Angeles until just last year. Came back to Vancouver. Hello, Dr. Munzira. Good morning to you. Welcome, welcome. She's an author. Nice. Edmonton's a cool city. It's cold in the winter, but it's a cool city. A very tall building. Yep. There's a lot of them. Tea time. Okay. I think next week next week will be a more planned late night live. I think I'm gonna do a Q&A later on this week. I'll post it on Instagram. I'll post the ask me a question thing in my stories, and I haven't done one of those in a while, a whole Instagram wide question and answer session for calligraphy, penmanship, ornamental penmanship in general. I've done one of those in a bit. And then maybe some signature practice, depending on what signature we do next week. Your birthday's on the 28th. Oh, that's fun. Well, happy pre-birthday to you. The capital stem with the entry oval is a lot of people's enemies. Don't worry. That one takes some doing. You just gotta do a whole lot of them. Fortunately, there's no shortcut. It'd be lovely if there was, but they just take some getting used to. Ooh, bottoms of my V's aren't coming out very nice today. Only the swan stroke loves you. Hey, it's all about the little wins. If the swan stroke loves you, that's good. There's a swan stroke in this week's signature, so that's to your advantage. Better. Oh, it works really good with the EF pen. I will take your word for it. Like I said, I've never used one. Signature is too tough for inking. Is it? Has anybody tried this week's yet? What's the general consensus? Is it easier or harder than last week's? I feel like it's easier, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, thanks, Lori. It's a nice entry stroke to the V. I'm very inconsistent with this shade, though. It requires a lot more practice to get looking the way it should. Was that the one you posted on your Instagram? Yeah, I posted it on Sunday. I posted this week's new signature. This one here. Chaz T. Platt. I haven't tried it yet, and it looks to me like it should be easier than last week's. Last week's was pretty challenging, I think. This week looks a little easier, but I'm not always right when I think that. There we go. That's the entry shape I need. That's better. In the middle? Yeah, that's a T. The strokes love you eventually. It's true. They're like ornamental penmanship strokes are like a wild animal. At first, you are foreign to them and they will be standoffish. But the more they get used to you, the more they will enjoy your presence. Until they want your presence. Until they like you. And then they love you. Philosophy brought to you by MRMG Ward. Oh, the new one has more. Yeah, the new one has a little bit more connections. That P is cool. I've never seen the P into the cross stroke of the T before. I'm excited to try that one. Whoa! What happened there? I'm getting some of these. I'm getting it a few times here. Over here too. Some of these letters. Not performance. Why is that happening? Let's try one whole arm and see the difference. Same thing. Weird. Which means I'm having trouble transitioning to the upstroke. So, the way I assess that or try to remedy that is get my arm used to traveling. There we go. In my push-pull direction. Ooh. Yep, the two signatures are both from the same book. I think they're one page before the other one. I think this week's signature comes first in the book, and then a page or two later, the next one comes in. They may be part of the same series by him or around the same time frame, because they look to be about the same quality and print size, and they both have the similar little crest, for lack of a better word, of the school he was teaching at the time. This is a good exercise. I don't do this one quick very often. This feels good. Because it's showing me exactly where I'm uncomfortable and where I'm comfortable. Ooh, just when he's making pancakes. Yummy. Music volume's okay for everybody today? I feel like I have to ask that every week, just in case. If it's too loud or too quiet, let me know. And we can boost it or tone it down. I think I might have it set a little louder this week than last week, just because I can hear it more that way. Oh, relaxing. I went pitch and putt golfing yesterday, and my upper back, shoulders, which are my driving muscles for riding, are sore. There we go. The V shade was good on that one. My entry stroke's a little banana pants, but one thing that I find, just a neat little tidbit, when I sit down to have a practice session, as many of you have probably seen already, my warm-up is not nearly the same, or not the same every day. It changes depending sort of on what I see and what I feel when I do my first few letters. So the warm-up is a great time, or is a time that I like sort of ironing out, oh, I'm gonna get a paper cut. Ironing out what I would consider that day's sort of kinks and whatnot. The kinks are different every day. Once you get used to the strokes, it's no longer about warming up everything all together. It's about ironing out specific details. So I'm just doing some strokes to iron out some parts that feel uncomfortable. And then maybe we'll dive into a breakdown. Writing with the paper completely perpendicular is doable for certain letters, for certain shades. I'm certain they did that from time to time, especially for flourishing. That's what we want. That's better. Because your arm doesn't bend. Your arm shouldn't have to bend in any weird direction to get any of the OP strokes. There we go. It's a better shade. Just a curious question. Do I want to be a master penman of my ampeth? I would like to be. I don't know that it's necessarily like a super strong driving goal. Um, I think the skill and knowledge that goes along with the journey of becoming a master penman is something that I'm much more drawn towards. Um, and sort of when you become a master penman, there's, I believe, sort of an unwritten rule that you're then passing on that knowledge and that information to other people. And I like teaching. I obsessively like to teach people, even when they don't ask me to. So I think taking a journey down that path to become a master penman will teach me a lot more than I know already about ornamental penmanship, and will teach me a lot about other styles as well, flourishing and decorative stuff that I'm not necessarily as strong in. I'm somewhat of a one-trick pony when it comes to penmanship and calligraphy, and I would like to expand that. So yes, I am interested in becoming a master penman. Not because I want to be a master penman, but because I want to learn all that stuff. And then just sort of the bonus, the cherry on top, is that a title sort of comes with it. And that's nice. Thank you very much for saying that. We'll see. There's a lot more that goes into becoming a master penman than just being good at Spencerian or at one style. Sort of like martial arts, just because if somebody goes in and is naturally gifted at Taekwondo or at a martial art style, they don't automatically get a black belt. You go through the paces and you learn, because there are things that you need to learn to properly be able to teach to other people that you can only really learn and experience by doing it for a long time. It has a lot less to do with skill and ability than I think people realize. A lot of people, I think it just has to do with, oh, well, you're good at penmanship or calligraphy. You're a master, but there's more to it than that. Yes, I have 2 certificates. I have a certificate of excellence in Spencerian and in Engrosser Script. Currently, and those are my strongest 2 styles. So all the certificates moving forward from here that I try for, if I try for, will be a lot more challenging for me and outside of my comfort zone and knowledge zone. Everything from here on out requires more learning. Because I haven't been doing them nearly as long as I've been doing ornamental penmanship. What all do you need to learn to do to get there? There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of steps. There's different categories, not all of which have been released yet, because they're releasing. You can only apply for so many, so they're releasing new things sort of every year in the program, by the sounds of it. And like there's a decorative style that I will need, and then there's a broad pen style that I will require, either foundational, or I think foundational is the only option at the moment. Which I have taken classes and studied a fair bit in the past. It's not something I do very often, just because it's not as fun for me as ornamental penmanship. Yep. Learning all the time that's what it's all about. I feel like I'm in slow motion for this week's Late Night Live. I'm in a super chill mood tonight. Oops. IAPIT cares very much about OP. What do you mean that they don't care about OP now? Ornamental penmanship, I mean, Spencerian is what IAPIT is basically built on. One reason that I would assume OP is not a part of the certificate program right now is ornamental penmanship was, like, back in the day, you wouldn't do ornamental penmanship until you had basically mastered business penmanship and, like, practical shaded script, aka traditional Spencerian. They would have those, like, perfect, like, super precise and precision. But it's really tough to say for an OP certificate, there is, like I said, there's a lot more personal style that goes into it. So it becomes much more difficult on the judging end. And saying, like, what's required, because it is basically someone's personal style of Spencerian or shaded writing, basically. So ornamental penmanship isn't one thing. It's like engrosser's text, the broad pen script that a lot of the old engrossers did. Every penman that did it different. They all had their own. They picked from different things. So there's not, like, one ductus like an Unchel or like a lot of the European scripts. There's not one thing to follow, like engrosser script or traditional Spencerian. So it's not that they don't care. It's just it's very difficult. And if I'm being honest, I don't know that there's many people that have mastered, myself included, the levels of the business penmanships and the practical penmanships to be able to fully execute basically their ornamental penmanship style. I think it is something that they would be into adding sort of in the future, maybe. I honestly am not sure. But it's a tough one. It's tough to add. Just because it's subjective. It's like when I teach flourishing, there's, as long as you follow sort of some rules, there's no real right or wrong. There's just what one person likes versus what another person likes. Is there anyone teaching OP except me? Yeah. There is. Do you mean in IAMPA specifically? Yes. There is. I'm forgetting her name now, which is bad. But there is a Japanese lady who comes and teaches. She's taught OP a couple years. A few years ago, or a number of years ago, John DeColobus was teaching Madara script, which is essentially a style of ornamental penmanship. There are other people aside from me teaching it. The problem with convention style teaching with things like OP is you can't get, it's really hard to teach ornamental penmanship in a convention style class or workshop style setting, because it is a lot of muscle training and it is really challenging. it's not so much as much rinse and repeat as some other styles are. Not saying that other styles are easy at all, um, but the muscle training involved in ornamental penmanship is very difficult and requires a lot of repetition and a lot of time. So, in order to teach it at in a workshop style or a convention style atmosphere, I have to stuff so much information and knowledge into the students that some get overwhelmed, and not everybody's into that. So it's not as popular of a class as a lot of the other ones. Oh wow, we got Brian in the house. We got Fozzie in the house. What up, everybody? Oh, Fozzie, tell your kids to chill out. No yelling at mom allowed, or no screaming at mom allowed. Oh, Marilyn, don't spill ink. Got to be careful. How's it going, Brian? Welcome to the live. I'm just doing a quick warm-up here. I guess I've been warming up for a little bit. I could dive into this week's signature a little bit, maybe. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Whoa. My hands smell of chicken and oil. That might be a good thing. Raw chicken, cooked chicken, I guess is a pretty important deciding factor. Nice. Thanks for coming to chill out. I've been having a big week doing, or Uncle Mike activities, so I'm quite drained, if I'm being honest today. I'm quite tired. I feel like I'm kind of in slow motion today, so today's live is not super high energy or super focused or anything. I'm just chilling and writing tonight. But I figured while I'm doing that, let's take a look at this week's Sig Slingin' Sunday signature. Oh, office time. Mommy's gotta work. Got bills to pay. Okay, so this one very similar, I think, to last week. And I will be posting, I'll record either tonight when we're finished this live or tomorrow evening. I know it's late this week. Sorry, family comes first. But I will be posting a IGTV Sig Slingin' Sunday breakdown just to have for the duration to have digital. But let's quickly here go through this one. We'll take a look at what we have to do. Starts very similar to last week. We have the start across stroke. Last week during the live, if you'll remember, I did the one, I started doing the two parts and then adding this little loop after. Once I got into actual attempts and recording it, I did find that I was much more comfortable and enjoyed doing it all in one stroke. So there's always the possibility that he did what I did in last week's live and added the little sort of loop later. But I've found that I like doing it on the fly when I'm doing the whole signature. Why does... Whoops. So the reason it says E.E. Gaylord in the bottom. So this is just a file. I just really quickly copy the Sig Slingin' Sunday image over from the Photoshop file. And the last one that I copied over was the E.E. Gaylord one. So today when I just printed this out, I didn't change the layer that had the text of what the signature actually said. The one that I posted online says the right thing, but this one is the wrong thing. I totally didn't notice that, but it doesn't matter. Copy paste, yeah, basically. Well, I put it on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in white so I can print it out really quickly to do the breakdowns. And I guess today, yeah, I totally forgot to get the the name copied over as well. But meh, that doesn't matter. Straight line all the way across. Thanks for telling me that though, because now I will definitely fix that before I record the proper breakdown. Straight line across, little loopy. Now this one is much more different than the E.E. Gaylord one. because the EE Gaylord came up quicker and almost like a big loop, whereas this one shoots really almost much more diagonally, more similar to like EW Blozer's signature, which should feel more natural, I think, for most of us. And then adding that shade sort of tapering in due to the speed. This shade is going to be a lot easier than the EE Gaylord shade was, I believe, because we can just fire right into it, nice even taper. And then it comes out here. We have a nice oval that goes way below the baseline to come up. And I like how this is equidistant. The entry stroke is cutting this little oval in, is bisecting it, which is kind of cool. Then it comes up here. I like the subtle taper on the shade here. So sort of finishing that off like we would finish off a lowercase p, which is neat. Something very Mataraz-esque. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of how close all of these little connections in there are, but I mean, I guess we're getting a little bit of this type of a shape, which is interesting. Getting a little triangle type of thing in there, but a lot of stuff getting close in there. I guess the main thing to be careful of is that nothing is crossing more than once, or it's going to create a hot spot. Then we have lowercase simple HAS coming up from the S into a slight compound curve, the first of the swan strokes. And then from there, lifting the pen into the second swan stroke with a beautiful compound curve that follows this one parallel down. Finishes about 2x heights below the baseline. Right there. And then this is my favorite stroke of the entire signature. Going over here, shade, finishing the P. A nice reverse oval direction coming up, crossing between the A and the S to cross above the T. That's not I don't think a difficult stroke at all. I think if anything, the difficult part of it will be getting this nice and smooth, but not really. I think that one's going to be relatively simple to get out. Oh, enjoy work, Mohamed. Sorry you gotta run. I'm the same way, Brian. I do my meal prep, but it's always easy. I don't cook anything fancy because it takes me way too long. Can you perhaps draw some lines on the actual signature? Do you mean like horizontal lines? Sure. Like this? Then we have our X height is a little over 1/8 of an inch. I don't usually draw lines on signatures when I'm breaking them down, but this lets us know that 2x heights is going to be our horizontal line right about there. And then you don't really have to worry about ascender height, similar to last week. They're not all the same. This H is much bigger than the L. You don't got to really worry about that. So go over there, across that T, then we got a simple L, A. You can also see how much smaller his A has gotten from here to here. This is one of the big reasons that I am super passionate's the wrong word, but I really like when people are not so strict on everything being exactly perfect, because Mataraz is probably the most famous penman and has the most people who think of him as their favorite penman in history, and a lot of his work looks stunning and is awesome, but has different height ascenders, like we noticed last week, has different angles, has different lowercase sizes, so that's why I don't like to stress the details and perfection too much. Obviously, you want the forms to be clean enough that they're recognizable and they look good all together, but there's a point when we get too precise and too clean, and we lose sort of some of the character. And if Mataraz could be a little wishy-washy with his perfection, then we can too, I think. Anyways, T, we got a standard shaded T, keeping below this entry line. Then we have the second, and also our spacing. Our letters here are relatively spaced out. We're starting to get a lot more condensed. I'm assuming that's just because of where he wrote this line. He wanted to finish everything before this little bead because the bead came down so low. So we really had no choice but to sort of squish the last name so that it all fit. But then we have our second T straight down. Could have lifted there, or he might have just gone straight into the end exit stroke. But I would probably lift there because I would add a little bit of a shade in that part just at the very bottom, starting about the X height or so down. Slight accent shade at the bottom, and then looping over and cross, and then straight down. As it curves all the way down as if it's making this big oval down here. Unlike last week's had a lot less. It was more sort of in this direction. It traveled a lot more to the left, whereas this one is shooting down and ending basically straight vertical. Sorry, going almost straight down by the time he lifted his pen, which is interesting. And that's basically all there is to it. There's nothing super tricky about this signature. I do like that this C comes into and cuts the S right about in the middle of the S, which is nice. Like I said, one of my favorite parts, I like that this oval is bisected by the entry stroke, and this C stroke, I didn't mention this before, the C exit oval is bisected by the baseline, approximately, which is nice. And so is, if we notice this big crossing of the T, this implied oval right here is also being bisected by the baseline. It looks difficult. I mean, it's Mataraz, and none of the signatures we do for Sigsling and Sunday I would consider that easy, but I do think it will come out of the pen easier than last week's. This one should feel a lot more natural. In playing with it real quick, I think this little loop and straight line is going to be, I think in order to create this shape, the way I'm planning to do it, I'm assuming, we'll see when we get there, but we'll be slightly slower on the top here and then quicker to get that straighter bottom. Otherwise, I imagine this being a lot more rounded as it's coming into here, cutting through the A, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but to get this straight line for him, I imagine he came over, shot, and then shot to that side, and then cut down. And we'll see how that feels, cutting that down to vertical. But that's about it. That's the breakdown. Making sure we cross to the right far enough that we have room for the whole name before this little bead is going to be probably of paramount importance. Unlike last week, the bead was above sort of the line of his T and D, like the D that ended the signature. So it didn't matter quite as much if it was before or behind, but if we make this too short, then this shaded T is going to get involved with the little bead, and it's just going to cause a mess. Is it supposed to be Charles? Because there's an apostrophe there? It's quite possible. I actually was wondering about that. I meant to Google it, and I totally forgot to. Because Mataraz also has a little dash in his name that's taken out in some of his signatures. He doesn't use it all the time. So I wondered if it was similar to the Mataraz apostrophe, or if it was supposed to be Charles, if it was a nickname, basically. Jazz. William to WM. I don't know if my name was William that I would want to be WM. Wouldn't they have shortened William to Bill? Isn't that what they did most of the time? Can you do a check of the angles of the letters you need to draw on your paper? Yes, I can. Normally, I do that on the computer, so I don't do this analog very often. I have to dig and try to find my 2 seconds. Dig through my drawers here. I don't know where. Oh, that was a lot easier to find than I had anticipated. Okay. Like I said, I usually do this in Photoshop. I draw a straight line and then I rotate it, and Photoshop tells me the exact angle, so I could just move that line side to side and see what the angles are. I cheat. Okay, what do we got here? First, let me write some lines on his slant line. Got here, we'll get right on the, about there, I guess. Looks about right. Doesn't look like his slant line changes as much in this signature as last week's. We'll get this solid downstroke on that T. Might change a little bit, but I don't think as much as last week. Okay. Oh yeah, they're pretty similar, all of them. Okay, what do we got here? First one, line up right there. We're at about 45, 46, 47, or 48, which is, I mean, that's the slant that I write most of the time, so that makes me happy that this one's at 48. What we got for that T? Sorry, I don't want to get my head in the overhead cam. It's at, bring this over so we're, that one's at about 50. That one's 50. This one, oh, I can't, the line is right in the middle of that black ink, so I can't see exactly where it is, but it's about 50 as well. So I would say average 50, 48, 49, 50, somewhere around in there, which is surprisingly upright for Monterod's, being he was, like, last week's was 35 at one point, which is crazy angled. This C, I guess it's sort of important to note that this C is in a constant transition from a horizontal oval into, so the C doesn't have, I wouldn't say it has one solid angle. The C shade, if I was, and this is silly to measure it this way, but this actual shade, if I go by the entry and exit to it and where the thickest point is, that actual shade is about, what's that gotta be, like 30 or 20 or, yeah, 30. So the actual shade on the C is rocking a 30-degree angle, super, super sharp, but then everything sort of chills out. Yeah, that's a very thorough, in-depth breakdown. I feel like this is much more in-depth than the ones I do for IGTV. Maybe I should just post this to IGTV, even though I can't because it says Gaylord on the bottom. But I think that 30 will happen pretty naturally because all you're doing is transitioning the straight line into this horizontal oval and shading as you go. It's not going to feel like a downstroke shade like a normal C would have. So that's not going to feel crazy hard. The reason I feel like that was difficult last week for the E was because you had to come out of that little loop and then really quickly go up high enough and then cut over to get that large shade. Whereas this one, we're just cruising from a hairline. It should feel easier. Those might be famous last words. Just because I say it should be easier doesn't mean it's gonna be easier. All right. I mean, yeah, there's lots of easier ways to measure the angles in things. Like I've said before, I don't analyze angles that much, so this works for me. I don't need to be super precise. And it's not a tool that I really use hardly ever. Because as long as my angles are uniform, I'm not super bothered at what angle they actually end up sitting at. All that much. Okay. red pen away because that's our breakdown. I'm just going to scroll up in the chat here and make sure I didn't miss any questions or anything when I was talking about that. Hody says this one's harder than last week because the middle oval from the P to the T is very tricky. That little shade will be nice in the P. We'll see. It could be hard. I don't feel like it'll be that difficult, though. We'll see, though. And there's a football between, yes, right in there. That's very true. Between the S and the P. And I'll make a note, and this isn't something that is a rule, but I know people are working on designing their own signatures and stuff like that. One thing that is happening here that normally I would frown, I would not want to do it this way, but because there's lowercase letters and whatnot happening in there, thanks, Wendy. Because there's not a lot of other things happening in there, or sorry, there are things happening in there, it takes away from it. But one thing that I personally don't like to see in signatures, that's when two horizontal ovals, be it like one could be the, as an example, if this was the, why are my pens not working today? What is happening? Fine, we will go pencil. If you're gonna be stubborn, pen, like the crossbar of a T, if we brought it over there, like if this was the T, and then we had another lowercase letters, blah, 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 and then we had another capital letter with an entry stroke like this. This horizontal oval into horizontal oval with that sort of vertical football is something I'm completely off screen. Awesome. Sorry. There we go. I don't have to rewrite it, but what I was saying, the crossbar of this T, if we kept that going, and then random lowercase letters into, say, a stem of another letter, like a B or something. That's an ugly B, but it doesn't matter, not the point. This here with the vertical football is something that I personally don't like to see this. The only time that this, I guess, doesn't bother me or doesn't bother my eyes, like I said, if somebody wants to do this, cool. It's your artistic choice and whatnot. But to me, this looks like it makes those two lines, I don't think, look good. Those two ovals not look good together. But when we go with moderats, for example, I think it works a little bit better because A, there's lowercase letters going through the beginning, and one of them is a lot bigger than the other one. So taking this example, let's do that same thing, and we'll see as an experiment to see if it looks better. I will ensure that I am on screen for this one. If we were doing a T, capital T, ignore my forms, they're not going to be super pretty, and I were to do something like this, and then I had lowercase letters, blah, 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 and then I was going to do my B. If the B had a larger entry oval than the T, so this was, that's an ugly entry oval. Let's pretend that didn't happen here. And a larger entry oval for the B, that's better. With the shade there. This is how I design most of the time, by the way. It's pretty ugly and rough, but this looks still not a fan of it myself. It's something I would try to shy away from if I could. But this works better than two of the same size ovals crossing like that. I would much prefer if they crossed in that middle point, closer to there. Or were not crossed or something like that. When they're just creating that little football, a lot of times my eyes find it unappealing. Hello, welcome. Yeah, just a little tidbit of information. It's something that I've seen in a few of the signatures and stuff and designs that go up on the Discord and whatnot, and I wanted to just make a note of that that's something that I would try to shy away from. And it exists in this signature, but the eye isn't drawn to it because there's so many other things going on. All right, let's try to write this bad boy, shall we? We got to do 3 things before we write it. Number 1, take a sip of tea. Okay, number 2, get a new sheet of paper. There we go. New sheet of paper. And number 3, stir the white ink because it has no or likely settled in the time that we were doing the breakdown and chatting. Stirring the white ink. Yep, that's a good idea, to give yourself way more first horizontal stroke than you think you need. Or do it and then realize, I have to write really tiny now. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try to put this under my paper so I have a visual reference of what I'm doing. Chances of getting a perfect replication today are not feeling super high, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So if this is gonna be, this is my baseline, which means I'm gonna cross right there. Oh, so I'm gonna be making my horizontal stroke right on a line. Not sure I'm a fan of that, but oh well. Here we go. Do this whole arm, I guess. That is ugly, but I fully shied away from going over there. Okay. That feels, I'll be honest, every time, I've only done it twice, but every time I've done this so far, my pen naturally wants to curve under here to not get into that line because of everything we did last week, because we had to keep it underneath the line last week. And now subconsciously my brain's going, no, don't cross below the line. And where does he, this crosses over right above. Wait, that's very strange where he has that. I'm not going to worry too much about getting all of the H crosses, all of these, the exact same as he has them, quite yet. Maybe we'll focus on that a little bit later. We're going to get the general shape first. Yeah, that works. Get your pencil on. No, I'm not mad at that. That's probably what I should be doing. Compound curve into the shade. Okay, that's our first stroke. We can do that. That should be relatively easy. Easy is subjective at this point. Okay. Did I get ish? If this had gone like this, we'd be almost, not perfect, but that would be all the crosses where I wanted them. Okay. And then this 30 degrees would be a smoother arc over to there. Cool. Only easy for you. No, easy for other people as well. Ooh, bright flexible fountain pens. Fountain pens, just so you're going into it. Fountain pens aren't really designed for this type of signature work and these types of shades. This is not a signature writing is not something I would do with flexible fountain pens. I have a bunch, and they just, because of the angle of them and the spring back of them, and the ink going into the feed and not being able to get back into the pen, they just don't make good signature writing tools most of the time. So just be aware of that. I'm not telling you not to do it, but just be aware of those shortcomings before you. I don't want you to use a fountain pen and then be sort of disappointed Gotta remember to shade that. Just as an idea, how much space do we have here? Probably not enough. Definitely not enough. I'm running out of space entirely. Okay, so I have to make this a lot higher and longer. Okay. What ink are you using? Today I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, I believe is the proper name. I just have it in a different jar. I put as much of the... I fill my jar with water, and then I put the really thick white from the bottom of the P.H. Martin's jar into my white until it gets a good consistency. And then I stir it every 10 minutes or something like that. And that's the white ink I've been using for a long time now, and I'm really a fan of it. The lack of hairline that we're getting tonight, my hairlines aren't super nice, that's the nib's fault, not the ink's fault. I'm not using the best paper. This paper is a little scratchy, so when I use a really fine, beautiful hairline nib, I get a lot of ink catch or nib catches and stuff like that, and it just becomes frustrating. So I use a little bit duller Hunt 101 for this one. Do you mix it with gum? No, I don't actually use gum arabic in any of my inks. I don't believe I have it in any current using inks. It's just straight water and P.H. Martin's white goop. Do you condition your nibs after use? No. I just clean them with water or spit and then we're good. After use and before use. I want to try the Paul's writing pads. I got a letter from him in the mail like last week, which was pretty awesome. It came to my old apartment and they called me and told me I had mail. I had a letter from him, which was nice. I got to write him back. It's very nice of Paul to write me a letter. Okay, does this one have enough space? Not worrying too much about getting these forms perfect. I just want to see if I gave myself enough space on this one. I'm too vertical, but that's okay. Still not nearly enough space. Crazy. So there's full attempt number 1. Not a good attempt, but technically, if you compare size-wise to that one, how he squishes his plot, it's not far off. Again, far from ideal, and my plot is much smaller than it should be. But I can afford to bring this a little bit rounder and get closer to that stem on that entry so my H can be a little bit closer. I think. We'll see. What would happen to walnut ink if you added gum arabic? I don't know. I'm assuming people do. It would just thicken up a little bit, I would guess. I think that's a thing. I think people do add gum arabic to walnut ink. I don't. I've never felt the necessity. Perhaps if your walnut ink is the premix, like liquid walnut ink, Um, then adding gum arabic if you need to either thicken or whatever you need. 'Cause I know some of the liquid ones are good, but they have trouble with nibs sometimes. I mix all my walnut from crystals, and I find just add a little more crystals, it darkens it up, and I never really feel the need for gum arabic. But if you want to get a lighter shade and it gets too watery, then definitely gum arabic is probably a good way to do it. Though I will also say I post most of my slow motion videos when I do thin down walnut ink, and that's just water and crystals. It's basically water with a little bit of walnut crystals in it, and it seems to still work relatively decent. Not the best hairlines, but it's okay. I forgot to shade. Okay, we can still bring this closer. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you're using liquid water, like there's a lot of ink making situations where you're gonna need gum arabic, which is why I have it. I have some. I just don't find that I need it in most of my own uses. Um, it's definitely a necessary tool for a lot of calligraphic moments, but just not for me most of the time. Ugh. I'm not doing that very good. I have to bring this over a lot farther to here so I can get that stem looking nicer. Cool. I gotta fix that S. Hi, Uncle Mike. Can you do tap dance like Mary Poppins chimney sweeps? I can, yes. Hello, Ian or Hero, whoever asked that question. I don't know the chimney sweeps dance, but I can do that style of tap dancing. That would have been a cool movie to be in. I'm not nearly old enough to have been a professional dancer when they made that, but the chimney sweeps step in time is one of the best dance sequences ever filmed, in my opinion. It's amazing, and acrobatic ability. A lot of the flips and stuff those guys do, I can't do, but tap dancing parts. What is going on with this C? I'm getting this weird. My entry to that shade is not very nice. Mataraz has this nice rounded moment where he gets into the shade. How does he do that? Let's take a stab at doing it like Mataraz did it. In theory, this is my normal grip. What I would do to acquire what Mataraz did there is tuck my elbow just a little bit closer into my body. Yes, that's true. The chimney sweeps were very flexible. I once was more flexible, but probably not that flexible anymore to do that stuff. Dick Van Dyke is one of my favorite actors of all time. He has a book called Keep Moving that is incredible, in my opinion. The audiobook version of it is read by him, and it's great. Well, that's nice that you got to meet him there at Dapper Day. Where does he come out of that P? Right in the middle, okay. Does he cut through the shade? No, right. All the way through the A and the S. Make that football, right? That's the basic idea of what we want. It's quite difficult to get this to come down. His comes down all the way to vertical. That is quite a hook on the end there. And then my little bead here is much bigger than his. I gotta figure out how to motorizify it as well. The football's tough. I think the biggest thing stopping the football from happening for me is the bottom of the seed not making it big enough. It has to go enough, if we look here, it has to go through the S enough. Like, it's pretty flat down here before he comes up, really getting into that oval. But it has to go through the S enough that this stroke can go right in the middle of the A and the S and not cross in the same point, which is potentially slightly easier said than done, but that's the goal. I really have to fix this. My entry loop here on this H is bananas ugly. Clean this out. I gotta slow down. Is what I gotta do ever so slightly on that C. Can I make a big enough shade if I slow down? Is the question. We'll find out together. Slow. When I say slow down, I don't mean slow down a lot. I mean just, I need to relax through it. My movement still has to be there, or movement writing doesn't work if it's too slow. There's a point where you can see the speed in writing. So I still have to go fast enough that I can't see the slow writing, but slow enough that I can control and think as I'm going, which is easier said than done sometimes. But that's why we train. All right. I have to get that little bead super small. I pretty much have to stop. That's better. I got an airline there, but oh, see, but now we're in the same issue. This is currently crossing exactly where that P has to cross, which is no bueno. So this has to be bigger. About to there. All right. Noted. Mm-hmm. There's not super lot more. I mean, the space between the A and the S is really no different than the space between the H and the A. It's just, you really got to push that C exit stroke farther to the right than what feels normal for me. I think I'm having... Good there. It's this exit that has to come super rounded. I have to curve this out a lot more. I'm going too straight on my undercurve. And then he utilizes the compound curve of the downstroke of the H to bring it back to the left. All right. I mean, if honestly speaking, and I can't say this for sure because I don't actually know, but I don't think there was a whole lot of conscious thought in a lot of the signatures that Mataraz was doing, because it's all, I think most of it for him and for most of those guys was subconscious when they were doing these type of stuff. It was, they just write and they make it work as they go. Most of the time. Ugh. Too slow. Okay, that's the right compound curve, but something's not right. I forgot to shade. Okay. We get the little football. That ending stroke is gonna take some work. I need to put the shade earlier so it ends in a hairline. It doesn't end in a tapering shade. Challenge. How low below? Yeah, that's about right. 1x height below the baseline. Nope. This is again, I have spacing is good on this H, but it's just this ending stroke, or this entry stroke has to go over there. Just has to curl more. That's something that I do every single time that I'm gonna have to work on. But we're close, ladies and gentlemen. The idea is there. Welcome back, Lori. No good. Ooh, that's a little better. That looks more like Mataraz's. Ending stroke? That feels so weird. Getting the shade happening so quick. But that is the way he did it. Okay. Unlocking things. More tea. Oh, most definitely. I think if Mataraz would have written this signature like 10 times, they would all look different. They would have been different versions of very similar things because they were very trained. But the dashiness is important. That's the life sort of behind the signatures. Precise signatures don't look nearly as good. Some of the penmen had super precise elements of their signatures, like CP Zayner's, for example. He probably has one of the most, I would say, most precise signatures requirement-wise, just because of his. Here, I'll do a really quick bad version. Whoops, too much of a compound curve. So I don't have to finish the rest of it, but super precise requirement because he designed his signature so the exit of this C finishes and looks like it goes right into this stroke. The this stroke here, a lot of people wonder where it starts. He breaks it in the middle here, which is an odd place to drop the pen because that's probably the most fluid stroke of the entire, like from down here to up here is like the most fluid compound curve line of the entire signature. But he started his next signature right in the middle here. Ideally, I think if he did it perfect in his brain, the C would stop here, this stroke would start here, and this stroke would start here in the same thing. He broke them down. So that was, there's lots of examples of it not being perfect, but the design of his main signature required incredible precision, which I think is really cool. But rarely is precision like that really required in signatures. And I think a lot of times it was almost, not in Zayner's case because he was Zayner, but I think a teacher would probably frown upon that to a student designing it that way, because, I mean, you're basically setting yourself up for failure every time if you require things to be precise. You design a signature that's not precise but looks precise, then you can execute it a lot of times. That's like the difference between the website, the signature on my website that I really like, but I can't do it because it requires real precision, versus the signature that I use, which looks really cool, but doesn't have to be the exact same every time. It doesn't require the same level of precision to look just as good. Which is why I don't use the first one, because it's just too hard. I can't do it that precise all the time. Nope. So what did I do here? I didn't go back enough. I didn't go far enough from the C. I'm being timid on this C. That's better. That's, I think, the best spacing we've done so far. I hit this little weird triangle shape we were talking about. Well, I drew it totally wrong, but you get what I'm saying. I got that little shape in there, so that's, the H is a little wonky, but that's the best spacing, I think, so far, and the shade is nice and big. Started that shade too high. Oh, come on. Darn it. Messed up. That's okay. Oops. Duh! Didn't get the shade shape right that time. Huh, okay. So, the P shade is giving me some trouble. Just like a B. It shouldn't be a difficult shade to do. There we go. I think I'm just getting myself stressed out more than I should for that, because that's not a hard stroke. Okay. And then that ending. Oh, maybe that one before was a fluke. There it is. Nope. My paper's moving. We gotta chill out on that last stroke. Just how to get the right shape. Okay. Okay. Kind of funky shapes there, but well, I'm not shading my S. He has much more of an engrosser's S than an OPS in this one. I'll have to remember that next time. Not a flat enough bottom there, but that's not a big deal. Way too far. That's the idea for the ending stroke. Okay. We can compare. We can bring his and mine into screen. Obviously not perfect, but the ending strokes look very similar. We're close. We are close. Oh, I'm out of tea. That's a sad day. Sad, sad realization. Marilyn, that's cheating. Go, that's better. I messed up the ending stroke on that one. That one's gonna be really good. Wanna know what I just realized? This is cool. So, I didn't realize when I did the breakdown. I guess it's the first T is crossed by the exit of the last T into the exit stroke, but it's also could be crossed because, as we know, Spencerian T's are crossed above a lot of the time. It's also crossed. Its crossbar could be that entry stroke, which is kind of neat. I didn't really realize that. This one was so close, except for this messed up ending stroke. Just Photoshop this one onto this one ending shade. Oh, bummer. So far on a previous one, we got the perfect little triangle. And then on this one, we got the perfect exit stroke. I think the C's a little better on this one, even though the shade's bigger on this one. His shade, he's a little flatter here still than I am, but I'm not going to be too picky about that. It's interesting to me that this takes actually some work. Where I'm used to doing, this is the type of stem shade I like the most with a nice flat bottom, whereas this one doesn't. It ends and doesn't have a super flat bottom, so it's weird to do two different shades that followed sort of the same path. That first T shade is weird for me. And then also getting this entry loop so tiny, just a little raindrop. Might end up being quite long. I gotta work on slowing those down. Photoshop to the rescue. No, that's cheating. If it was a project, or if it was like a piece for print or something, then I wouldn't let my pride get away, and I would potentially Photoshop it in there. But at home, behind closed doors, I want to get it. What's up, Ashok? Welcome. So he has to pretty much stop moving to get that little raindrop so tiny. Mine's still so much longer than his, but we'll keep going anyways. Wait, how does that look? No, my C's not angled enough. Gotta get that 30-degree C shade somehow. I was so close to getting this exit of the H in the right spot, but I missed it. And this is ugly down here. And that's so long. It feels like I'm not even moving, but this oval is so long down there. Well, Marilyn, obviously, if you cheat, it's easier to hit it every time. I'm at a point where I know I could cheat and do it that way. But I want to try to do it this way. I'm not saying he necessarily did it this way. He may have cheated, but cheating, I know I can do it cheating. So if I know I can do it cheating, I'm not going to practice cheating because I already know I can do that. That's no fun. I like the personal challenge. Because yeah, if we broke this into 2 strokes, even like I was doing it last week, it'd be very easy to get that little loop be so super tiny. But I don't want to cheat. It's littler. We're getting there. Still getting this funky shape at the bottom of the C, but Deal with that later. Oh, and I forgot to do the more engrosser script style S on this one. Whoops. Nope. Not gonna do it. Not nearly big enough. This should have gone much lower. Pretend that hairline continues down. Nope. Oh, I gotta crack my neck. Ugh, sorry. If you could even hear that, I don't know if my microphone would pick that up or not. Let's stir the ink. Clean the nib, stir the ink. And try again. Yep. I definitely feel this one feels easier. I think this one's easier than last week's, though. It has its intricacies, but I don't feel it to be quite as stressful. I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah, my neck is cracky sometimes. My back, too. Oh. Okay, let's get a smooth C shade. Loud and clear. Sorry, I apologize. Maybe because my mouth was open and that's where the crack projects from. Alright, stir the ink. That's what I was doing. Stir the ink 6 times clockwise and 2 times counterclockwise. The way of a great potion master. No, joking. I wish potions were real. Like Harry Potter potions, that would be so cool. You keep running up of ink. I'm assuming you mean out. Running out of ink. Oh, you mean... I mean in general. I was like, well, get more ink in your jar. You mean on your nib. Okay. Dip a little faster. When you pull the nib out of the ink a little bit quicker and see if that gives you any more. It might not, but... What am I doing? Not nice in here, because I'm too worried about this cross point. Still not curving this enough. Why am I not curving that enough? Yeah, okay. Got to add a shade there, but that's okay. Nicest shade. Close enough. I keep missing when I'm dropping my nib in weird places. Not hitting my start points. Decent. Not mad at that. Do we need a... Right, we just need a dot after the T. And we need to fill this little guy in. And while we're filling it in, we can give it a little bit more of the shape it requires. I'm okay with that kind of cheating. And we're not terrible. Not amazing, but we're not terrible. In general, what do we got? Can we get a side-by-side comparison here? His H is just a lot prettier than mine. I gotta drop the T shade a little bit lower. Come up a little quicker in here. Okay, but that's best one so far. I feel like at different moments we've done each difficult part correct at least once. Never all on the same signature, but in different signatures we've hit all the important stuff. So now it's just a matter of getting it all at the same time. Focusing on all of it at once. Because the C shade could still be bigger. I gotta go for it. More gusto on the shade. A little bit less space between the C and the H. I'm thinking. White ink can be temperamental sometimes. Oh, nib snap. Right off the bat. Same thing as always. Why is it so hard for me to do that? Because that's a really nice C shade. I like that one a lot. Getting into that H. Mm-mm. There's what we need. You think I'm cutting the loop under the C shade too soon? This one here? Yes, you are most definitely correct. He goes way below the baseline. Like, he's lower than the P here. Like, I think on this example, I'm not far off. I think this one is much better than the last one I did. But it could even drop probably down to there would be a little more ideal. You are absolutely correct. I mean, in general, this stroke going from a horizontal oval into a loop, which is like the top of an L, the top of an S, this stroke going into the H this way, getting that low curve and not going up at diagonal so quick is something that plagues me for a long time. I transition too directly instead of curving into it. I know that about myself, unfortunately. Well, no, I guess it's fortunate that I know it. All right. Cool. New sheet of paper. Fish strips. Ooh. Now your ink is too bubbly. Oh, you should never shake your ink. I mean, it's okay if you do, it doesn't hurt anything, but shaking ink just causes bubbles and it's problematic. If you need to agitate ink like walnut or something, I always recommend the marble so you can swirl it, which doesn't cause bubbles, or very like almost slow agitate upside down and regular. Doesn't create bubbles. Then bubbles can be really annoying. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Brian. I mean, they're essentially fish. Especially to Courtney, they were fish. I've never used the Zig white ink. Oh, crud. No good. Too slow and thinking too much. If we're going at that size of an X height, I should be still getting down to about there, which is really low. This is the same issue I was having, or a similar issue I was having last week with the E. I think that's the right lowness. Shade isn't very good on the C, but one issue I guess I have to be very aware of, if I drop the C as low as I need to, like we've been discussing, and you leave the H, if you don't tuck the H in closer, like I've been doing for most of the signatures, I have a little bit more space here than I should have. If I do both of those things, or sorry, if I do this correctly and don't get the H tucked in closer, there is a ton of space in here. That is hidden before, unfortunately. You don't see it. The mistake is hidden anyways if it doesn't go quite as low. But now I have to be very mindful of bringing the H closer or farther to the left. My friend calls them something more fat. Gross, Fuzzy. Yeah, like it's. I didn't realize that, Brian, until right now. Because this is. I hit the right level for the C. Like, woof. That makes it extremely glaring how off my spacing from the C and the H is. But even him, I mean, he has a lot of space here as well. But he tucks it in. Like, I don't have to come over a little bit. But if I could move that just that far, just like an eighth of an inch to tuck in, I would have the same spacing as him. And we'd be laughing, which, that's doable. What's going on, Devin? Okay, here. Phallic drills. Giggle. Something like that. The 8 should be a lot closer. We hit the little triangle. My shade wasn't too big, but I wasn't focusing enough on the big shade. But I think spacing wise, we should be in a not bad spot. This oval should be a little higher right here, but whatever, I'll take what I can get. Not perfect. Bummer. Messed up the P loop. So, those two lines aren't touching. Merde. Darn it. But I think this might be... Pretty sure that's the closest one yet. The P loop needs to come a little... I mean, it's too much space in there, but... Not bad. I wish the C shade was a little bit bigger. But as far as technically, I think we crossed most of our T's and dotted most of our I's. My P started a little high. I don't have to start that quite as high, but that's not a big deal. It's pretty close. The H can still be closer to the C though. And I need to smooth out this compound curve a little bit, but I like the shape of this. I think this is, it got up high enough there. Could go up even a little higher, I guess, but pretty close. Of course you did, Fuzzy. Smudge City. We'll give this one a happy face, just because we gotta celebrate that little win. Alright, clean my nib off, drink some water, and try again. Who else is giving this a shot tonight, and who's just spectating or listening? You got some house music. I don't have a royalty-free house. I need to make one. Oh, I don't have anything that's royalty. Like, I do have plenty of house music and stuff, but I can't use it because my video will get in trouble. I need to create, I guess, a house playlist or a trance or an EDM dubstep playlist. Wait, what do I have? I'm gonna try to wake up Brian. I know it's not midnight, but maybe I'll do this anyways. To see. Okay. No, this isn't gonna wake us up. It's still too chill. Going back to ambient chill. Sorry, Brian. I have nothing in my streaming software that's wake up worthy. My apologies. Sorry. I need to create a wake up playlist. Something high energy. I don't even think I own any metal music, period, on my computer. Royalty free or not. I went a little too big on the shade. High energy, big shade. See, and for me, I'm like, ooh, the more relaxed I can be, the bigger my shade will be. Sometimes. It's usually a matter, for me, big shades, it's usually a matter of remembering to do a big shade. We kind of explored this last week when I forget all the little elements to think about. When I think about them all in the course of a signature, everything works sort of perfect. But I forget about so many elements that I need to focus on as I'm writing. Now I'm trying to make giant sea shade. I didn't go low enough, but I went over 2 X heights below, which isn't bad. This probably looks more like his example so far. With the exception of how long this little filled-in loopy is, I think I like this one even more than the last one. Can I get them both in screen? Not really. I like that one. Again, I have all this extra space. I need to pull that H farther to the left. But I think that one's a better example. I mean, they would I think it's not even the names. I think so many of the elements, like for Mataraz, just going into a big shade was sort of innate. It was a just a natural thing. Um, I think a lot of the things that the old penmen did were so subconscious. Um, like we're replicating one single signature and trying to do it perfect, but I honestly feel like all of these broken down elements, they were drilled in their learning so much that all these elements were natural. So putting everything together took way less tries than it would for me or for us today. Um, Primarily just because I haven't put in the hours of drill training and practice training, muscle training to have all those strokes feel super comfortable. I've put in a lot. When I focus on each one, they're comfortable, but they're not comfortable enough yet that they are like subconscious, that they just happen without me thinking of them. I have to remember big shade. I have to remember all of the little elements. And there's a lot of things that I don't think about that I think a lot of people who are beginning ornamental penmanship still are thinking about. And that's why you guys say, you make it so easy or it's easy for you. It's not easy. It's just a lot of the things I'm thinking about other things. Um, there's a lot of things that I don't have to think about anymore. Um, but I think for them, there was even more things that they didn't have to think about. In theory, I don't know. I mean, what I wouldn't give to be able to talk to them and ask them, but I really think the more we break down the forms, not break down the forms, but go to basic practice like we did 2 weeks ago when we were breaking down the stems, the more we do those, and the more we get used to ovals and connecting random letters and stuff like that, all those elements become natural. Like this, word, the thing that I have trouble with, the entry from the H going into the H, same with into the S, into the L. That's a stroke that I know I have to drill a lot more. When I think about it, I can do it, but in moments like this, I'm thinking about so many other things that I totally don't think about that, and it's apparent because it doesn't happen. So we'll get there, I feel like, one day, hopefully, but not quite yet. That's a good. If I was filming this for my Instagram post, I would be happy with that rendition. As always, not perfect. My P got a little pointy at the bottom here. I think my line here, my horizontal line, I'm doing a compound curve, which he does as well, but I think I'm bringing it quite a bit lower than he did. So I'm not able to get as big of a shade on the P because I haven't been giving myself the space. I think I need to bump this horizontal line almost above the 2x height mark a little bit to give myself some more space for that P shade. But I'm quite happy with that. Part of me wants to just kind of wrap up and quit after that one because primarily that C shade, I think that's the best C shade of the evening. And getting the hang of this guy going down to a vertical hairline is interesting. I like that. Happy with it. I will love them only when I can write them correctly. Well, it'll happen. All right, Marilyn, thank you for joining us. I honestly don't know if I'm going to be going too much longer. I'm quite not sleepy, but just in zone mode a little bit. I might just keep some classical music playing and relax. So I might cut this live off. But I'm going to try at least a few more and see what we can get here. Oh, I need to stir my ink. Or my paper is hand oily at the bottom here because I don't use a blotter sheet. Lost that hairline. Sweet dreams, Marilyn. Paper moved. Whoa! Snappy snap snap. Whoops. I'm gonna utilize that ending shade more often. Getting into the shade quicker, ending in a nice hairline. I don't do that most often. My shades are usually right at the very end. Okay, another not terrible. What is... Ah! So, something to note that I'm doing that Mataraz was not doing, and this is a habit that I have in the capital B as well. Coming out of this shade, I have a lot of vertical momentum still, so I'm coming out, and it's why this oval is getting so big, and I'm crossing through the A, where his cross before the A, you can see here. Because notice, he doesn't have nearly as much vertical sort of momentum. As he comes out of that shade, he's transitioning into horizontal, so he's coming out more so to the right than he is up like I am. I'm getting sort of a cascading oval, and he's rotated his oval. So I have to bring that, cross that lower and come out at a more horizontal trajectory so that then I can cut lower quicker without making a huge oval. Because my oval size is about the same size as his, and that's why I was confused at how he gets this nice shape without cutting through the A, and it's because he comes in at it, or he transitions here, so he's coming this way. So his oval size stays the same, it's just rotated. Good night, Lori. Thanks for hanging out. Alright, try that a couple more times, and then we're gonna call it a night, I think. Brian, you'll have to send me an Instagram message this week reminding me to put together a a wake up playlist is what I'll call it. We have the hip hop playlist for when we hit midnight, but I need a wake up playlist that I will play when it's requested by viewers if we're getting sleepy. Your work, by the way, Brian, is looking very awesome lately. Seems like I'm assuming it's your casual practices. You're coming out with some really, really nice work. It's dope to see. I'm jealous. I haven't been writing during the between Tuesdays nearly as much as I should these days. Okay, what were we doing? Right. Giant sea shade. Okay, exit horizontally. The right idea, but I made it too small. Eh, not bad, but that's awesome. That's great. It's nice when there's no real preparation for the practice session and you can just sort of sit down and go for it. So they can happen in between other things. Bummer. I didn't bring that shade low enough to the baseline. Regret. I could cheat and draw it down to the baseline, which I will. I don't like doing this. That's way too big of a shade now, but yeah, no. No good. What happened there? Oily paper. Come on. I should be using a blotter sheet. Come on, Mike. Pull it together. I'm losing it, folks. Ah, yes. You mean lifting on the bottom? You lift in some interesting places that feel very weird to lift for me. Oh, is that your request, Fozzie? You want some Rage Against the Machine? For next week? My issue is lifting on the bottom, because I've tried it, because like Zaner, I mean, a lot of the books say that you could. But when I do, like I can get a nice exit or a nice shade, but continuing on from there into the exit stroke, it never, like even when it is good, without going back in and like touching up that transition, I always see it. And for some reason, I feel like I prefer, because this little loop, like the shape suffers when I do it all in one stroke, but for some reason, I prefer the suffered like lack of form to having this visible intersection. When I can see the lift in the intersection, it bugs me a lot more than when the shape of the letter is incorrect. And that's just a personal thing. Yeah. So because I like the idea of lifting down there because I can get a nice clean stem shade every time then. But the connective stroke, I can't get it good. Sometimes I'll do a better job, the same premise, doing the Z. I can do there, and I don't know if it's because it's on an angle and it's not a horizontal oval coming out of it. I can get sometimes a nicer loop out of it, but both of them, I prefer continuing the movement, but the forms definitely suffer because of it. Your metal rock metronome. Nice. This is taking more space than last week's signature. Why is that? They're about the same size. Or the way they're printed here, anyways. Come on! Oh, maybe 1 week. I don't know, I'll have to approve this with people first. 1 week I'll have a choose your own music week where I'll do it in complete silence and everybody listens to whatever music they want to at home. But it won't clash with my music because I won't listen to music. Maybe. Same bloody thing. Not curved under here. Darn it. I'll have to give some dedicated practice to that later this week. I could put headphones on and have my own music playing. That's true. I don't usually like headphones. I listen a lot also, and this is not like I don't not wear headphones for this reason, but I like hearing the shades and stuff, because I can hear when things are smooth and when they're not. That's a part of in class as well. I like to hear people's nibs. Just like how I say often, you can see speed, you can hear it too. And fluidity and whatnot, and where the whip is and things like that. This signature definitely has what Mataraz has, where it starts to squish at the end, but oh, I made the T too high. Darn it. Not a horrible rendition. I still gotta work on making this little loop a lot smaller. Got a little too rambunctious with the P. I got excited. This was a nice exit of the P, but then I continued it going too far to the left. Would have been nice if it cut in here a little sooner. Oh, it would have been really nice. All right. Well, we got one more maybe. We'll see, bottom of the page. We'll see if we can pull one out. Okay, this time I'm gonna try to focus on the entry to the H, so I stop messing that up. Yeah. Not bad, not perfect, but not bad. Ooh, weird shape. Why did I do that? That came out really bizarre. Oh no. Missed the connection. Bummer. Not quite as good as I would like it to be. But much better than we were doing an hour or so ago. As a bad effort, that's a pretty good bad attempt. Oh yeah, I listen to music, or I listen to headphones when I'm choreographing. I'll have one headphone in so I can hear all the intricate beats and stuff in music, but for the most part, I like music to be silent ambience. Okay, folks, I think that I'm gonna wrap that. It's gonna be the last attempt for me. Unless anybody has any final questions or things about this signature or about anything we really talked about today. Today was kind of a chill session. I think, like I said, next week I want to do a Q&A. So I'm going to post on Instagram if people have questions, and we're going to do a Q&A session next week. And it may, after the Q&A, if we have time, we might go into practicing next week's Sig Sling Sunday signature, whichever one it is. You guys don't know yet, nor do I. But we'll see. Should be a good one. This week was kind of random, but needed for me to have a nice little chill session here. So thank you very much for hanging out with me, everybody. As always, it was a blast. If you are giving the Sig Sling Sunday challenge a shot, be sure to tag Sig Sling Sunday so everybody can see your attempts. Yeah, and I hope everybody has a beautiful remainder of their day, night, evening, morning, whatever time it is in your time zone when you're watching this. And I will see you guys later. Remember to fall in love with the process, and life should be just a bit of silliness, really. All right, everybody, we're going to end this stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace out.